Okay, it says I've got a little screen, a little button up here with a counter, and it says we are live. So I've got some special guests today: Jordan Vandergen, Deepali, and Matt at Synapsis BI in Brazil. Deepali in West Lafayette, Indiana. Jordan in Holland, Michigan with me. I'm also in Holland, Michigan. So just a real quick update. You know, I got advice from my mentor the other day. I was doing LinkedIn live shows, but I wasn't really telling people what I do and what my business is. So my business, I do business intelligence, and I've been doing a lot of live shows. So if you go to my website, SolisMatica.com, you'll see a lot of my live show videos, and then you can schedule a call with me. There's a button. That's the wrong color. I just changed that this morning. But the thing I wanted to point out real quick was I just added this to my website this morning. And a lot of people ask me, you know, what is BI? What type of data do you analyze? So for every single request I've gotten over the past year, I kind of made a chart out of that. And this is going to be refreshed daily. So every time I get a new market sector, I'm going to update this graph. Types of data analyzed, you know, is it marketing, education, operations, and then where the requests are coming from. So here's one showing the states. And I'm going to zoom out. I've actually got a couple of overseas requests to analyze data. In London, I think I've got 2 or 3 requests there, and then also by states. So you can see I'm in Michigan, so most of the requests are in Michigan. So follow me on. Oh, the other announcement I want to make is this is the first time I'm co-broadcasting to LinkedIn and YouTube. So before I was downloading off of YouTube onto my laptop and then off of LinkedIn, then uploading to YouTube. Now it's going to go straight into YouTube. So this is pretty exciting. I'm broadcasting to 2 different locations at the same time. All right. So back to the conversation at hand. We got Jordan, we got Matt, we got Deepali. I was racking my brain. I was like, you know, typically I have a theme of, you know, what brings us together, right? And I think the theme for today is we're all in the startup journey. And Deepali we just talked to, and she's prior to the startup journey, but she's got some questions for each of us about our startup journey, right? So Deepali, I need a lot of questions from you. And also to our guests, the audience members, you know, put in the chat window your questions. Deepali, I think you have a question from one of your members, so we'll ask that question during the show, and then we'll bring him up during our talk today. So my first question then, since we're all kind of on the startup journey, and Deepali, I'm going to have you go last because you know you said you were a little bit nervous initially, but so we'll have you go last here. But let's go with the veteran, Jordan. So tell us a little bit about your business. And, you know, you just talked a little bit about how long you've been in business, right? You've got kind of 2 businesses. So, you know, tell us a little bit about your businesses and how long you've been doing them.
Of course, yeah. First, thanks for having all of us on board. This will be a fun time to catch up as well as get to know you all and say hi to the world. But yeah. My main focus and company that we're working on right now is called Orindi Gear. And it's a cold endurance mask that's designed to help individuals who work in really cold environments breathe warm, comfortable air. And it's been my goal and dream to take the initiative and build something from my own, of my own fruition and thought and effort and time and money, just to try and put my money where my mouth is and go through the whole startup journey with this mask. But the real why behind why I'm working at Orindi was when I was little, I suffered from cold-induced asthma. So that's whenever you go outside or breathe in a cold environment, the cold air shocks my lungs and really essentially makes me cough. So I couldn't go outside. I couldn't like play with snowballs, or I had to bundle up like a little marshmallow when I would go out. And it was just a fatigue on my life. So kind of taking that root cause, we're now trying to enable individuals to earn a more stable livelihood who work in the cold environment. But
yeah. So I just had a quick question. So I think you've told me before, like people that work in cold storage or in the big supermarkets that have to go into the cold rooms and stuff, or what kind of people would use it? And so you have some examples, right?
Yeah, so I guess we're a startup, so we're focusing on a very specific niche, which for us is cold weather industrial workers. And those are individuals who drive forklifts in large cold storage warehouses.
Yeah.
So those are between -60 and -40, -60 and -20 degrees. And it's just a cold, long day. But as you kind of expand that bubble, kind of expand your niche, there's like winter maintenance workers, we have construction workers. I'd love to someday get into the sports segment with individuals looking for that incremental improvement.
Yeah.
And you can get that by just treating your body better and breathing more comfortable air. And then eventually I hope to come full circle and be able to make a small size mask to help individuals suffering from asthma. But that's more in the medical side of things. So we'll strive for that.
So what I love, Jordan, is, and you've told me this before, but it's a personal story. You have cold-induced asthma since you were a child, and now you have a company, and then it sounds like your goal is to return to help the kids with asthma, right? So it's something you're personally attached to. You're passionate about it. I can see it when you're talking, and now you're going to return to it. And just real quick, so I think you told me that you've been doing this for 3 years. And what's kind of what are your fears? What's the biggest challenge for you right now, right? So we're going to talk to Matt about, because he started a couple months ago, his website went up, right? But for you, what's the scariest thing for a startup right now?
Yeah, I guess the foundation of that is it's hard and it's scary. So you have to have a real why, why for why you're doing it. Like you're solving problems, you're learning, you're creating awesome value. So when the going does get tough or things get more rough, you can always go back to say, okay, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So right now with Orindi, we're at a stage where the technical side, it's validated. We don't really have any worries about feasibility. It's now more into the sales and the commercialization side of things.
Yeah.
So I'm a degreed engineer. I'm a product development engineer. I love to perfect things and make things great. I'm not a CEO. I'm not a sales agent, but that's what I want to be. And so that's just the kind of the biggest transition in my life, or the biggest pivot for me, is transitioning from the engineer that wants to make a perfect mask to the CEO or sales guy that's like, we have plenty of people that could use this mask. Just get out there and do it.
Wow. So getting that MVP, launching your product into the world, learning the sales side of things, and launching your product. No, that's a lot going on, and it's right. It's, if you're early on in the startup, that's not necessarily what you're talking about, but you're at a point now where you're seeing these new challenges of expanding and growing.
And I never would have seen that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Sitting in our college dorm with my co-founder Jared.
Yeah.
We were like, this is great. We'll just do these pitch competitions. We're gonna have some fun. There's ups and downs, but we're gonna make something and they'll buy it.
Wow. Oh, fascinating.
So you really do learn, and I'm glad that I'm on this journey.
Right. Oh, very cool. And so we're gonna come back to you too, because you've got some good stories on pitch competitions, right? So so we're gonna come back to that. And then just a reminder to the audience, if you submit your questions or just tell us where you're from, if you type in the comments on LinkedIn or YouTube, we'll see that in our chat window so that we know you're out there. And typically I get 1 or 2 questions. So we're going to jump to Matt real quick. Matt, I wanted to jump to you because I think you told us it was maybe a month ago, your website went up. So you have a whole different set of fears and challenges, right, than what Jordan's going through. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, about your journey more recently, and how you went about, how you overcame those fears and stuff. So the floor is yours, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Matt. I'm from Brazil. I have a consulting firm in the business intelligence solutions and sales strategy called Synapsis BI. Essentially, we help companies to understand their data better so they can extract information from it and transform that information into knowledge. So the second pillar is that company become a data-driven company. So becoming a data-driven company, they can take and make decisions with empowerment. So we help companies to understand, become data-driven, and have decision power. So I started my company this year. The website is 2 days to become 1 month old, and
Yep.
I'm focused on developing content for to make an audience and teach people what BI is, because as we were talking before, Charles, people ask you, BI, what? So BI comes from business intelligence, but what business intelligence means, you know? So I'm trying to teach my audience to know and to develop themselves into a BI knowledge. And I'd say one of my greatest fears it will be not reaching that many people as I supposedly want. I don't know how many I want, but I want to reach as many people as I can. So I'm aiming for that, and I'm trying to develop a community that knows what business intelligence means, and by that they can become what you and me are, Charles, business intelligence consultants, and develop their own businesses.
Yeah, no, that's
really cool.
yeah, really cool stuff.
I have a question from Matt. I wanted to know the tools that you are currently using for BI.
The software?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm using Power BI mostly. I started learning Power BI and I just went for it. I got a little contact with other tools, just like ClickView, ClickSense, and Tableau. But for me, the greatest results came from Power BI. Also, it is on the first place in the Gartner quadrant, and it's not by as being a Microsoft tool, but I really got along with it. And when I started learning, I watched plenty of tutorials and before I did my first course, and it was the tool that had many available videos on the internet. So I went for Power BI, and that is my main tool nowadays.
Yeah, so let me do a quick screen share. So what Matt was talking about, the magic quadrant here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so you can see Microsoft. And if you look at this magic quadrant from, I think like 5 years ago, you know, Microsoft was down here with Power BI, but just in the past couple of years, you know, they really skyrocketed and took off. And I have a video on this too, because I was like Matt, and I was monitoring ClickSense, Tableau. You can see Tableau is up here, and just over the past couple of years, Microsoft just took off and kind of took over the market. So that's like Matt said, we all watch, you know, and the support network is incredible. There's a Power BI forum. There's another Dynamic Communities forum. So if you have any questions, and you know, with people like Avi Singh, there's YouTube videos all over the place. So we all kind of gravitated, and you know, full disclosure, Matt and I are in Avi Singh's Power BI training program, his Pro Plus program. So we're big fans of Power BI, and we have joined a course for that. So so yeah, and then just real quick, Matt, along the lines of Deepali's question. So I started my journey way back when with Excel, and then I did VBA macros, and then I learned VLOOKUPs, and then I got into pivot charts, and I was doing pivot charts about a year and a half ago, and that's when I discovered Power BI. It was embedded inside of Excel, and then I downloaded the desktop version, and that's when the light bulb went off, right? Because I was like, oh, I've been wasting too much time in Excel and pivot charts. I should, and VLOOKUPs, I should really just be doing this all in Power BI. And that's when things like kind of changed for me. But just real quick, what was your progression in terms of your data? Was it Excel or was it from the SQL side?
No, it was very similar to your path. I started with Excel when I started in Volkswagen in 2010, and I just didn't do any VBA, and I thank for that. But I didn't have any VBA background. But the pivot charts, even dashboards in Excel, I've done. But I do think Excel is a great tool. I use even for my grocery store lists today, but as a daily basis tool, I prefer it in a notebook. But of course, I do analysis in Excel, but I prefer the capability of Power BI to share so when you share the Power BI, you don't have to share a file, you share an access. So the person you share with have a Power BI account, and they access their account. So you have the security from Microsoft. You have the cryptography from their system, and you don't have to share any file and a link, although you can. But that's not the common. But I do Power BI most of my day and every day now.
Right. Oh, very cool, Matt. So and I just want to point out, and we're going to go to Deepali in a second here, but the goal, any startup, I think, and maybe we can go around to Jordan too. But when you first start out, and as an engineer, I fell in this trap. You're like, oh, I have a great product, and the world will just come and buy it, right? But if you don't have the marketing channels, if you don't tell people your story, if you don't have mediums to spread the story, nobody is ever going to know about your product. And that's I learned the hard way about distribution channels and marketing channels and storytelling channels. Is you can have the best product in the world, but it's just, if it's in your home in a closet and there's no way for people to learn about it, nobody's going to know about it, right? So I think what you just said there is really, really critical. Is your goal is to reach people, and Power BI is new enough where there's a lot of evangelism going on, right? So you're like, people don't know about it. They don't know what. A lot of people haven't ever downloaded Power BI. They don't know if it's part of Excel. They don't, So there's a lot of teaching, a lot of early adopters. So we're going to go to Deepali. Deepali, thanks for joining the show. I know this was short notice. I think yesterday, right? So, but Deepali, I think you will be a great addition, because a lot of people, what you probably don't see is that we're many years out of college, and we don't know what goes on inside of the schools, and you're there, right? You're in grad school. You're at Purdue. I think we're ranked for data, business intelligence and data analysis. We're like the #1 school. The Kreineke Center is well ranked, and you're in the business school too, which I remember quant jocks was the term. In the engineering management, we were engineers that were thrust into business. So we love the data, right? We're like, oh yeah. But so what I wanted to say real quick was, Deepali, you and I met where I was advising your team for a case competition, Project X, which was to help Purdue students that were off campus, kind of, how do we help them come back to classes safely during COVID? And what I'm so proud of is your team came up with a really cool app idea with a chat bot, and you presented it and got honorable mention, right? And the scope was really, really big. So congratulations on that. But what I wanted to talk, and Jordan's going to talk about case competitions and presenting too. But what I really wanted from you is, what I thought was interesting was the tools you were learning, right? You were talking about integrating natural language processing. I think you had talked about being able to scrape before, and this app you developed pretty quick. So what kind of tools are you using for some of this, to develop that project? And maybe we can talk. I know a question came in about chatbot architecture too, but kind of tell us, for people on the outside who don't know, like what are the tools you're learning and using at Purdue right now?
Thanks, Charles. I was so involved in writing down questions for Jordan and Matt, I almost forgot that I'm supposed to be answering questions too. So that was a lot of questions together. To start with, the first thing, the application that we worked on as a part of Project X. The main objective of the application was to integrate the decentralized offline and online channels of Protect Purdue, as well as assist behavioral change among our target users, which is the Purdue community. I designed the prototype using AppSheet, which is a platform, a no-code application development platform. It's very easy to use, this application, which looks sophisticated. I just designed that within 5 days, and that included the initial few hours in understanding how AppSheet works. So that's really cool, and there are a lot of tools out there that do this easily. There is another application that is in the development right now, Honey Code by Amazon Web Services. So right now only the beta version of it is available, but that is also promising. I used AppSheet to develop this application. And to address the second question that you had about using language processing, machine learning, data scraping, I remember this conversation started when Charles was telling our team about an analysis that he did in Power BI. And while he was showing us a demo, we just thought that he takes the data from a website and then puts it into an Excel sheet and then uses it in his Power BI model. So we were just thinking that maybe this process can be a lot easier if we use Python for data scraping. And I remember the use case that he was demonstrating was seeing the keywords that are used in the posting. So using something like text processing, this would be a lot easier. And I have not used Power BI a whole lot. I'm just starting to use Power BI, but I have used a bit of Python because it has so many libraries. It's such an easy language to use and becomes so much more powerful with the libraries that can be used. And I think the combination of Python with Power BI is really, really powerful. I haven't used Python integrated with Power BI. What I would usually do is I would source my data, perform all pre-processing, and then convert it into a nice CSV file, and then read it into my Power BI model. But there is a way of integrating Python into Power BI. And that is something that we are looking forward to. So Charles and I would probably be working on a project starting next week. We just need to go through the use case and see how we want to go about it. So I'm looking forward to it.
No, I want to talk about that application real quick, is because what I was doing was going into job descriptions. Because when I was going into Power BI, I wanted to look at what the big companies were hiring. If they were going to hire a business intelligence analyst, what skills were they looking for in job descriptions, like on Indeed or LinkedIn? So I told Deepali I was reading each individual job description, pulling out the keywords, populating a spreadsheet, and then it would do a count of how many that keywords were in the job descriptions. And then I put it into Power BI and then did the whole display. And I think Deepali, you shook your head and you're like, Charles, we can automate that. So I was like, oh yes, thank you. So this is an exciting project because it's market insight into our business, Matt, is business intelligence. What are people looking for? What are the skill sets? And one of the key things I found and discussed with Deepali was so many companies cut and paste that job description, right? So they're like, oh, I got to write another one of these. You've probably seen this, Matt. It's like, okay, cut and paste from who else searched on the web. Okay, here's one, cut and paste, and put my header on it and send it out, right? And so what I was finding is for Power BI, people were putting like SQL. It's like you got to know SQL. And as Matt, as you and I know, it's DAX and M. So I think it was a copy and paste error, from people that were looking at business intelligence maybe like 5-10 years ago, and they were just copying this over. So I was like, oh, wow. So there's still a lot of this evangelism and teaching people about DAX and M and star schemas for Power BI. And that's what, Deepali, I'm so excited that, I discovered, because I was manually pulling all these keywords out, but if we can use some natural language and some search parameters and pull that automatically, oh, that will save me so much time and give us, so much market intelligence. So Jordan, go ahead.
And to add on to that, like we do that in the product and the sales side of things. I mean, you read through the Amazon comments of a product in a certain sector, and it allows you to sculpt your language so that the people who are reading it are more familiar or are more comfortable with what they're reading. Yeah. I mean, so even though they might be asking for the wrong programming language, the employer, you still mention it because it'll guide them to the right path. Yeah.
And you want people to search for those keywords. That's true. That's a marketing thing. Is like, what is a keyword that will direct people to this?
Even if it's irrelevant, it still does the job.
So that's interesting, Deepali. We could see, potentially two sides of this. People are stuffing it with keywords to bring people to that job description, or people are copying old ones and accidentally bringing people and maybe fishing for the wrong skill set too, could be. Jordan, that's a good point. Is there's two routes into that job description with the data, and that should show it. And then just one thing, so chatbots, can you talk a little bit about what chatbots are? And you said that this app program is not supporting it anymore. Is that right, Deepali?
So this is one of the questions that I got from, I think someone I studied undergrad with. So he asked about the architecture of chatbots in the application. So just to clarify, the application that we had made for Project X did not have a chatbot. The chatbot recommendation was different. So it was the application and the chatbot were not the same. And this was also because we just made a prototype. We did not make a full-fledged application. And the second thing is that AppSheet, the website that I used to make the application, does not support chatbots anymore. It used to, but now it does not. So basically what they did is they made chatbot apps just like any other app, and they ran it with messaging services like Facebook. So that is what they used to do, but for some reason they did not do it anymore. I think it was active till 2019, but this year it is not used anymore. So what a chatbot would usually do is using NLP, natural language processing. It would take input from a user in the form of text or voice, and then it would retrieve information from the data sources at the back end. So this would have been really helpful because in the middle of COVID, we have a lot of updates from Purdue, from CDC, from a lot of places, and it's just difficult to find answers to your questions. There are a lot of FAQ pages on different platforms, and to find an answer to one simple question, you have to go through a lot of links. So a chatbot can make it a lot easier. If you have a question that you need an answer to immediately, you can just ask a chatbot, and the chatbot would go to the sources and retrieve information for you. So that is basically how a chatbot works, and it's really helpful. We have chatbots back in Accenture. for our employee needs when we wanted to know something about salary or anything. So we had started using a chatbot for that. I remember it was really cool.
So is it kind of like an Amazon Alexa? You ask it a question, it pulls its database and then answers you, but just kind of in text form on a website or in an app? Is that what a chatbot?
Yes, absolutely.
Gotcha. Oh, very cool. So yeah. No, I me being outsider to that whole realm, I was like, chatbot, what exactly is that? So that puts it in context for me. So thanks, Deepali.
Do you know why they dropped it?
What's that?
Do you know why they dropped that feature, or if there's better or alternative solutions now?
I cannot be sure, but this is just what I feel. I think Google acquired Amazon AppSheet at some point of time during 2019 or earlier this year. I think that is the same time they dropped chatbot. So maybe they're coming with another version, or maybe they had. I don't know, but I just saw that it was around.
Yeah.
So it could be a lot of things. I don't know.
Cool. Oh yeah, good question. Yeah, and so I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and I'm gonna have a little bit of fun. So we're gonna tap Jordan for a good a good story. So all of us have kind of taken risks, have gone into a new adventure, and it's super scary. And we were just talking before the show. It's like you're jumping off that branch or that cliff, and you got your wings flapping, and you're like, I hope I fly. And you look down, and there's no safety net, right? So that's kind of like the startup journey is kind of scary at times, because you're like, where's the safety net? It's like you got to figure out your own safety net. So, and there's failure along the way. And Jordan, you mentioned you got some good stories on case competitions potentially, and some good stories on that. So if you could enlighten the audience with some humor, that would be great.
Yeah. Maybe one that we did. It was with the Miller Lite Tap the Future competition. So when I was in university, there are these awesome and powerful opportunities to, if you have an idea and you can put some credibility around it and show some feasibility of it, primarily in the product side, not as much as the fee-for-service side, you can apply to these competitions and potentially earn capital, which is it was then used to develop the company. But we got into the Miller Lite Tap the Future competition, and it was a balance between Miller Lite and Damon John, one of the sharks from Shark Tank. Oh, wow. And the first round was really, really fun. It was on a stage. There was a ton of people. It was really entrepreneurially friendly. And we earned first place through that and got to go into the second round, which was a few weeks later in New York or Chicago. And once we got to the second round, we're like, all right, it's going to be something similar. We're all startups. We're all trying to figure out what we're doing. And that was not the case. We were like the high schoolers, or like elementary schoolers in a high school. Here's me and Jared walking around with our kind of like iPhone made video, and the other guys are presenting like professionally polished presentation videos and such. So when we got into the pitch, to say like, hi, I'm Jordan, this is our company, this is our why, this is our mission, we got going, and one of the judges just put her hands up, and she shut up, and she looked at me, she's like, why are you here?
No.
And I was like, all right, there's $100 grand on the line. I have a script in my head, and I'm halfway through it, and I want to finish it, and I just blanked.
Whoa.
I was like, well, we're here because we developed this product, and I started kind of continuing on our pitch. She's like, no, like, why are you here? And what she and kind of through that pitch, we kind of pivoted, and it was more of like a feedback session. We definitely lost the opportunity.
Wow.
And there were definitely other companies that were more rewarding of that capital for that round, certainly. But the pitch kind of pivoted, and these awesome, critical, and really brilliant judges turned into mentors. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, okay, this is what are your sales? What are your projected sales? Exit strategies. We want to hear a number every other sentence that you're saying.
Yeah.
To put credibility behind versus soft, fuzzy words, essentially.
Right. Wow. Fascinating.
So I guess entrepreneurship is always a journey of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But even when you fail, there's always an awesome learning opportunity.
Right. Right.
That makes you better for the next pitch competition or the next opportunity.
Yeah.
And, that was humbling, and we definitely did not win that round, but we got a lot of good contacts and a lot of momentum from that.
Wow. So, I mean, just hearing that, I mean, that puts, goosebumps on me, right? I think people are like, wow, that is so scary. But then again, you actually took action. You went up there and you got the outcome of that, which is most people would never do that because they're so scared of getting a comment like that. But then to get that feedback, like you said, it helped you on your next competition because they gave you that critical insight of having data to back everything up and not use soft fuzzy words. And so you were better the next time around, right? But most people would never get to that because they'd be scared of that one moment you just told about us about. They never see the future of the learning and stuff.
Yeah. And me and Jared, we drove back home. And so for 4 hours, we were just like, all right, they critiqued this. And we recorded the pitch and the conversation.
Yeah.
So we just had like 40 bullet points of things that we needed to figure out. And we were good at doing pitch competitions for university, which are usually more idea and prototype.
Yeah.
But this next tier was an investor pitch, essentially. So now we're more calibrated for the investor pitches that we do. And I guess regardless, cheers to Miller Coors for giving back and just giving us that opportunity.
Oh, amazing. What a story, Jordan. Thank you for that. That, like I said, was, I don't know if you saw, but my jaw literally, it dropped. So Matt, we're going to jump to you real quick, but I just want to add a story about, startup life. I remember I was working, a full-time job and then trying to start up my business during lunch hours and during, late at night. And I remember during the lunch hours, the thing was I was like, I made a decision. I'm not going to use any resources at work, Wi-Fi, whatever. So I would get in my car and I would drive to different places and try to figure out Wi-Fi. I was like, who's got Wi-Fi? So a couple of my favorite spots were Barnes and Nobles. I could sit in their parking lot just on the side, the one in Holland, Jordan, the side parking lot, and you can tap the Wi-Fi there.
And stay in your car.
So, and Avi Singh did ask me once, he was like, Charles, we were on a call with Avi. He's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in the parking lot in Barnes and Nobles. So the other location, this is another startup story, is I found out the mall in town, Jordan, where the old mall, a lot of the stores aren't open anymore, but they have an atrium. And in the atrium, it's a beautiful spot. All the stores are closed in the atrium, but nobody's ever in there. So I was like, oh, this is a good spot. So I go in there, but they've turned off their Wi-Fi for the whole mall. So there's X-Golf or something, 2 stores down. There's just enough two bars. So I could sit in that atrium and tap their Wi-Fi signal and then get on these calls. And one of the Avi Singh live calls, Matt, I was in that atrium using X-Golf's Wi-Fi. So luckily now I'm at a stage where I can use my own Wi-Fi. But there was a time when I used, I go drive around town. I was like, where's my Wi-Fi going to come from today?
Yeah.
So Matt, if you have a good story, I think the audience would love to hear, if you got a startup story.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. My first Avi meeting, I think you were on that meeting also. I were in my car. I was in my car. So I know exactly what you mean. But I was on my own internet on 4G. was not that good, but it was what I had. I also went to a coffee shop, and I had to buy a coffee, so I got access to their Wi-Fi. And now I do know a co-working space here that grant access to their internet. So
Oh, nice.
oh,
Yep.
so that's good, very 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 good for me.
Yep. Yep.
I was just like you. I didn't want to use my current job, nothing, you know. Even though they are okay with me starting my own journey, I didn't want to. I don't know. For me, it's just like exploring them with that.
Yeah. No, very good. And I just want to ask you too, your website just went up, you said a month, 2 days ago.
2 days, yeah.
And so what was that like? Was it easy? I mean, when I put up my website, I remember it was a big thing. Naming it your company is a big thing. It's kind of weird, but you identify, it's like putting yourself out there almost. And I think I had a website ready to go for maybe 2 weeks. And finally I pushed the go button, and it was so nerve-wracking, right? Even though, what's funny is nobody probably saw it in that first week because nobody knew the website, the IP address, right, or the domain name. But I was so nervous. Like, was there any nervousness when you got your website ready, or did you just like push the button and say go?
Actually, at first, I was struggling a lot with developing my own website. I had to start WordPress and my domain, my everything for the website. So I was struggling a lot, and I was studying DNS. What the heck is DNS? You know? And so I started developing on my own, and then I stopped and focused on the Avi group, and I gave it a break to my website. And a little later, one of my friends, also a BI consultant here in Brazil, said, "Hey, Matt, I just developed my website with a friend, and he is helping a lot of us consulting guys here. And why don't you talk to him?" And that was right on. I talked to him. He just accepted to help me on that, and he developed my whole website. And so it was developed by a professional guy with will to help others,
Right. Oh, very cool.
So he was the one who pressed the button, not me.
Yeah, gotcha. You got help. Hey, I'm glad you brought that up. And Tyler, who's watching, said Squarespace is great for websites, and he used that. I've been using WordPress with Elementor plugin, and I've heard other people use Squarespace, but like you, wow, it's so complex. I've like shared hosting, dedicated hosting, VPS. And then I got into the the text. TXT and the I forget what they're called, but you had to.
I think they're the back and the front developing, right? No.
Yeah, the DNS, and you had to propagate them the right way and tie all these things back through your DNS server. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot more complex. I thought it'd be a couple button presses, but you're right. So Jordan, you got some thoughts there?
Well, just to add on to that, like, I'm a technical person. I was like, I'm going to use my technical ability to save myself $6 a month. And I'm going to do the WordPress as well. And that's what we did. But we've gone through like 3 different websites. I'm finally happy with what we have, but it's taken hundreds of hours. And what Tyler said as well is just get something that works with Squarespace or Wix or whatnot. And if you're confident in yourself to take the initiative to build a company,
Yeah.
be confident that you can, I guess I'm talking to little me, be confident that I can afford the hosting of the website through a slightly more expensive source, because we really spent a lot of time on it, and it's still not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
that,
I
no,
think
please.
right now, because this landscape is constantly expanding, and the more you learn, the more you feel that you need to learn more. And that is why collaboration becomes a key, because even the four of us, we have such different backgrounds. Like we all started differently. I started from SQL, and Charles and Matt said that they have never done SQL. They use more of Power BI. So, collaborating. And I think the other day, Charles and I were talking about a community that he found on Twitter. And he leveraged the connections there to collaborate and work on a project together. So these days, it's so important to network and collaborate with others and just get a different perspective on your project. And I think that is really, really helpful.
Yeah, oh, that's a great point, Deepali. Kind of like what Matt said too. When you're a founder, your time is so important, and to spend hours and hours and hours developing a website and not put it up, I mean, all those minutes that it's sitting hidden is just wasted, right? And then, like Jordan said, if you can find somebody, or Deepali, if you find a network and somebody makes that recommendation, Squarespace, and you can get it out there quickly, instead of fumbling through, researching shared hosting, VPN, and all this stuff. If you can find somebody that's already been through that and give you your time back, Tyler's point, your time is worth so much at the beginning. You got to have the vision and understanding that if I can save this time and not fuddle around with my website and use it to develop business and leads, that would help so much. Yeah. So good. Wow. What a great discussion. So Deepali, I wanted to go back to you. If you have a good story about a case, or I know you've been busy writing questions for Jordan, Matt, or maybe me.
I was.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to ask Jordan because he had a really cool story about his pitch. And I remember when we wanted to submit our pitch for our case competition, our team, we worked for 4 hours to, create this tight pitch within 8 minutes because that was the time limit. So I just wanted to know what are the 3 most important things for you to have an impactful pitch?
I think when you're doing a presentation, I think a lot that's important is the humanity of your pitch, or the connection that you have with your audience. And really that goes down to passion, commitment, or continuity of words, and just then getting your points out to ensure that the boxes are checked of some capacity. But we started off doing very, very scripted pitches because we had to. Like, they were 30 seconds or 90 seconds, so we would punch it out, talk really fast, and then cross our fingers that the judges interpreted everything. But a pitch should still be a conversation where if they wanted to, the judges should be able to raise their hands, ask a question, you answer that question, and then move on. And that's what we got into later in our pitch life is, here's an 8 to 20 minute pitch for different opportunities. And the judges are welcome to engage in the pitch. And at that point, we transitioned from like solid bullet points or solid perfectly scripted pitches over to slides that had bullet points that would trigger different kind of scripts in our minds. And if we got off topic, which is fine, but then we were able to cycle back onto it because of the deck. But I think a lot of it, most people are on their A game when it comes to the data or the foundation of your pitch. I think a lot of it is the delivery, especially when it comes to sales side of thing.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah,
it does.
I'm just going to jump in. I think Avi had said this, or somebody had told me, a mentor recently, is a presentation is a transfer of emotion. And Jordan, your point of, when you get somebody passionate about something, and when you speak and they see your passion and they connect with you and they resonate with your story, for sales, for marketing, for pitch presentations, that does so much. And if there's a human connection, the humanity, like you said, Jordan, if you can tie that into your pitch and show emotion, because we've all been there in those presentations that are long and drawn out and everybody's falling asleep late, but you get somebody there that's waving their arms and hands like me, and you're like, whoa, or like Jordan, he was moving his hands and stuff. Like, you see the passion in our voices, right? And I think that makes it, people connect with you, right? When you have so much emotion in presentations. So it's a transfer of emotion during these presentations.
And maybe to add on to that, if you're in the opportunity where you're sharing information with people, or you're trying to sell, there's a reason why you're in the room. So you don't necessarily have to over talk or over communicate or doubt yourself that you need to build up that foundation. Just be there and be present, communicate, but also listen. And me being younger in my career, I definitely ramble and over communicate to try and answer a question. And sometimes the best question is just to have a short answer, and then they can ask a follow-up question.
Such wise words from somebody so young in their career, Jordan.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that transitions a little bit. So we go from Jordan, who's very, very wise and young in his career, but maybe to go to Matt, who's also very wise, but further along in his career. So Matt, you've been at VW, you said. How many years were you there?
I started in 2010 and left in the end of 16.
Okay.
So it was almost 7 years.
7 years. Okay. So, and then in automotive, and then you started your own business, and then maybe for Deepali, right? Somebody who's getting ready to get into the workforce or start her own business. Deepali, do you have any questions for Matt, or Matt, kind of advice for Deepali?
Oh yeah.
Please.
So yes. So my field, engineering management, is a little different, because we take courses from the School of Engineering and the School of Business, because we want to develop those skills that you guys just talked about. We take courses like accounting and marketing so that we know business along with the product. So, and I think this transition from having an engineering mind to having a business mind is sometimes difficult. I think all of you all have faced that difficulty in the transition. So what do you think is the best way to go about it? How do you think you develop a business acumen while knowing the product? I mean, so knowing your product is more of the engineering aspect, I feel, but knowing the market and knowing how to go into that market and leverage the qualities of your product. I just want to know how do you go about it?
Oh my gosh, that is a great question, Deepali, and Matt, maybe you can dissect that. So
yeah,
the transition, I think there's a couple of things in there. There's the transition from potentially an engineering, very black and white, logical, to business, which is very gray and fuzzy, which has been a struggle for me. When I took my MBA, I really struggled with that. But I think there's also the transition that happens for all of us from kind of an individual contributor to more of an asset builder, right? You're working for somebody being, and contributing to their goals and vision, where they're building an asset. But now I'm building something, making something, which is my company. And there's been a transition into that role too. So Matt, you're right in the thick of it. So I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah. I started my internship in Volkswagen when I was in the halfway end in my university. I did a business college, but in business college you learn about Ford, you learn about I don't know, theory, but you don't really experienced business. So I think my experience in the internship was of major importance for me to understand how the business works. So when I started in Volkswagen, I was in the intern audit. That is a department responsible for auditing the other departments of the company. So I did learn a lot about the integration of the departments and the process integrations between from the production side to the sales and in the dealership. So when you audit the production, there's plenty of technical issues you have to learn so you can understand their processes. And when you go from the production to maybe financial, you have to learn a lot of finance so you can understand. So I was in business college, not math or other thing directly connected to engineering or finance. So I had to learn sideways how I did that, or of course I learned in my internship and not from college. But when I got into sales and marketing or the dealership processes, that was clear on my mind because I came from businesses that I also thought it was just theory. But no, something you learn in university, you can apply to the business side of things. So, but I think the major experience was the practical one. So I do think being part of the internal audit, that is a department that connected everything and go deep into the departments and various departments processes, was extremely important for me to learn about the business side of things. And and that, I think, was also the seed for me to understand and being able to develop my own business today.
Wow, very cool, Matt. So I think what you just said there's I can relate because I did a co-op and an internship while I was in college. And both of those were huge in terms of me learning about the business side of things. And then once I got out of college, I co-op, all that experience really helped me out in understanding the business side of things. And Jordan, I wanted to just touch base with you real quick because you interned, I believe, at Disher, right? And you and I have spoken, but the culture at Disher is very strong. They've cultured and developed a strong culture. And I think, you and I have both talked about, that was a huge lesson learned, is how culture, when you go to college and they talk about culture, you're like, what does that mean? What is company and culture? But it's really their core values and how they make decisions and how they operate. And, I think Disher has a very strong, if you want to take a moment, maybe to give Deepali some insight into what you learned.
Maybe to focus on her question.
Yeah.
When making the transition from a technical individual to a more business, or trying to at least be a translator or blending that line.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm doing right now with Orindi, is from engineer to sales or CEO, is kind of two path. It's how are you fulfilled? What do you want to do? So for that, what I did was I have 3 lanes of time. I can work on technical stuff 25% of the time. I can work on sales and marketing 50% of the time. And I can work on customer support or something the rest of the amount of time. And is that what would make me happy? or feeling fulfilled in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So then you don't get burnt out. But then on the focus that we have in the business side of things is really, it goes back to one kind of heartless number, which is, what is the amount of capital we're seeking to earn next year? And from that number, you're like, okay, well, this year we're doing this. We want to do an even blend so then we can get up to that final number in 16 months. And then you take that final number, we need this many sales individuals, we need this many product SKUs. This product line is, and it's having a one singular common goal for a team of business focusing individuals to unite around, to strategize down the path. And then the engineer gets that, okay, we need a car that is electric, that can run 300 miles. And then it's the engineer's job to work up to that goal that's established. So as a technical minded person, we're solving cool, awesome problems. But the root of that problem is always, what is our future sales target?
Yeah. So there's like high level company wide thinking and lower level thinking too. And so Deepali, I wanted to bring that into a little bit. But near the end of my corporate career, I was a project manager and then a director of project managers. And that's a really, really interesting job, and kind of talks about what you're talking about, because if you're an engineer in a single department, you have very defined roles, and each problem is kind of follows a certain set and procedure. But when you're a project manager, each project encompasses the whole company, departments within the whole company, and you're trying to guide everybody, and each project is also very different. The problems that are posed, each client is different. Each group from each department that's working on your project is different. So project management was my introduction to business in general, because it encompassed everything. And I think that's probably the theme I have now when I think about my business, is I'm dealing with everything, with the marketing, with the sales, with production, with the data modeling, and just everything across the board. Because as a project manager, you're kind of the same way, as you're dealing with everything. So that being a project manager is a good introduction. And I remember another department that touched all groups was the technical writers, because they had to know what the electrical engineers design was. They had to know how it was built in assembly. They, to put the assembly procedures together. They had to know what the mechanical engineer did. So they touched and talked to every department within the company, and so did the project managers. We were across the board, which is more, I think what business is about is the integration, and Matt alluded to that too, is, when you're in business, you see the integrations across all the different systems. Whereas if you're in an individual department, you're an individual contributor, you're kind of in a silo, and maybe you could see that in your own department, but not a holistic view. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from this is that the things that you learn in school is just like your toolbox, and you can only use it after you get into the real world and apply these skills that you have learned. And it's important to kind of zoom out and see the bigger picture, and see the interactions and the interactions between every department. And then as long as you keep the bigger picture in mind, like Jordan just said, he starts from the top and then goes down to the little goals to achieve that bigger picture. So yeah, that was really helpful, and I'm so glad that I could get insights from each one of you to this. So yeah, that was really cool.
Cool. So I'll have a little counter right up here, and it says an hour and 4 minutes. So great job. We have put an hour and 4 minutes of content out there for the world to hear. I just want to bring up, so Tyler did say along the lines of presenting, investors want to know you have skin in the game. They want to make sure you care about their resources and will direct those resources into your passions, which creates better odds for return. So I think that goes into pitch competitions, like you said. So they want to know that you're invested in this. That I think it plays into asset allocation. You're in charge of those assets now. So they're evaluating you and seeing if you can make good decisions with their assets. So if they invest in you, are you going to make the best decisions and take that asset and turn it into something great? So so if you have passion, if you put skin in the game, you say, I'm invested in this, I've done all the work, I'm passionate about it, I think people are like, yeah, I'm going to give you something because you're going to turn this into something incredible. So I just wanted to end with that thought from Tyler. Any other last thoughts before we log off? And if you guys could just stay on, I'm going to end the broadcast and we'll just do a wrap up inside. So anything else you want to say, or are we good?
Just thank you for receiving us all here and for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. And Deepali, I love your insights from inside colleges and your interactions with everybody. And I would love to invite you to more of these shows because I have a network of people outside of college, but you have the insights and the thinking from inside of that world. So if we can match you up with more panelists, I think your questions were wonderful. So please come back, and Jordan and Matt, we'll have to bring you back I think I'll have to do another series of entrepreneurs and startups because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I would love to come back and learn more.
Sweet. All right. So with that, I'm going to end the broadcast. And if you could just stick around for a couple minutes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.